A very good morning, everyone. Today we will be studying our unit 7th of our course, that is risk and uncertainty, and how do we manage these things or these problems. Herein, we will be studying the comparison between risk and uncertainty, types and sources of risk, types or sources of risk, management strategies, and we will be studying Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana and some suggested readings for your further understanding. So let's compare what is risk and uncertainty, and thereby we will understand what is the difference and what are these things. What is the meaning of risk? It is a probability of winning or losing something worthy is known as risk, the probability of losing or winning or losing something. Uncertainty implies to a situation where future events are not known. They are known but not with certainty. That's why it is written as they are not known. Measurement. Can it be measured risk? Yes, it can be measured with the help of probability, but uncertainty cannot be measured. See, a risk can be measured with probability and some other models. For example, risk of default of loan. Default means non-payment of loan by a borrower. How can we measure that if we are giving loan to someone, how much chances are there that he will repay the loan properly or he will not repay and become a defaulter? It can be learned by by using some theoretical models based on the past data of the earlier borrowers. In the past, we have had many borrowers who have, some of them have repaid and some of them have not repaid, so we can identify particular characteristics and make a model and fit in the details of our new borrower and see whether and see how much is the probability that the new borrower is going to repay the loan or is not going to repay the loan. So this is how we can measure risk. uh, Uncertainty, it can be measured through theoretical models based on past data, but we cannot assign any probability to the outcomes. Okay, weather changes, definitely we can study those weather changes based on the past data and based on satellite observations, but with a surety we cannot say what is going to happen. Policy changes, these policy changes are generally guided by current needs. Okay, so nobody can think of the future and think of the needs that will be coming up in the future. So these policy changes by the government can be done at any point of time, and we cannot just think about those changes that are going to come in advance because they are based on needs. Okay, they can be made at any time. Outcomes, so let's say there is a situation wherein either A or B or C will happen. Such a situation comes under risk, where these outcomes are uncountable. Many possible outcomes, that let's say weather changes. Will it rain? Will it not? How much? So there are many combinations in this area. How much it will rain in that area? Whether there will be hailstorm? How much of hailstorm will be there? At what time will it come? So there is a lot of uncertainty. The number of outcomes possible are uncountable or innumerable. Can we control risk? It is controllable. For the example of risk, by studying the earlier data and then making models and then fitting the details of the borrower, we can think we should the probability will be getting whether the borrower will be paying the loan back or not paying the loan back. So by judicious lending, by careful lending, by studying the past data, we can control risk to some extent, not fully but to some extent. These weather is, you can always know that weather is not controllable at all. Can we minimize risk? Yes, we can definitely minimize risk. You might have heard about a CIBIL score. Everybody who is repaying their loans on time, they have a good CIBIL score. That means they have good credit record, so lending to them is easier. So lending to people only with a good CIBIL score, it keeps our money safe because they are safe borrowers. They will be repaying your money. There is no such method of minimization of uncertainty. Probabilities, the known events, either A or B or C, we can assign by studying the past behavior. We can assign a probability to the current borrower that there is a probability that either there is 20% chance or 0.02 probability that he will repay the loan, and 0.80% chance that he will not repay the loan. We can assign a probability to the outcomes, and we know those outcomes, either of these three will happen. There is no D. Okay, for this particular example, we cannot assign a probability because there are n number of outcomes and we don't know with certainty which outcome has how much of probability. So risk, where the outcomes are known and we can assign probability to those outcomes. Uncertainty, n number of outcomes and we cannot assign any probability to them. We can measure risk, uh, we know the outcomes, we can control it, we can minimize it, we can assign probabilities, and none can be done for uncertainty. Let's now study what are the types and sources of risk. Types or sources of risk. Production risk. First one is production risk. Yield affected by several factors such as weather, insect, pest and diseases, poor or failure of technology. Some machines might break during the operations. Example for it would be untimely rains leading to a fall in production of onions in certain areas of Maharashtra can lead to spike in prices throughout India. Okay, price or marketing risk. Due to lag, there is always a lag because we decide what we are going to produce today based on the prices that were there in the last year for that crop. Okay, let's say carrot. In nearby areas of Hisar, if the prices this year of carrot were high, so last year the prices were high, so this year the area under carrots generally becomes high because everyone wants to take advantage of prices. As the area increases because of last year high prices, the production increases, supply increases, demand for carrot is stable, so the prices go down. Alright, there is a fluctuation from year to year and season to season. Second point here is EXIM policy. Uh, there is a price and marketing risk. Let's say a farmer A harvested and sold his rapeseed and mustard at 5,000 per quintal just after harvesting, and but the other farmer waited because he had the capacity to store his mustard, and right now the prices of mustard has increased up to 7,000 per quintal because our government has imposed a import duty on palm oil from Malaysia. I think Malaysia, due to certain political reason, they have imposed an import duty. Import duty means if you want to sell certain commodity into India, you have to pay 10% extra. 10% of let's say you are bringing in a commodity at 1,000 rupees per ton, so 10% of it you will have to pay 100 rupees to the government. So in the Indian market it will be available at 1100 rupees, and because it has been made expenses by the government, import duty, so uh, our what do you say, the home production or our oil seeds which are present there inside India, which are substitutes of palm oil, which are cheaper, their demand will increase. Okay, if their demand increases, their supply is same, so their prices naturally increase, and it is happening all because of import duty. Because the palm oil coming out from outside is expensive, we cannot import it, and rapeseed and mustard even after increasing the prices is far cheaper, okay, than this. Just don't, these prices are for the sake of example, but these are the real ones. Financial risk, changes in rate of interest by banks on savings as well as on lendings, as that means on loans. Let's say the rates of interest on saving has increased from 4% to 7%, and rates on what will it how it will affect, the farmer will naturally think instead of using the money to cultivate crops he should save it, because 7% return is not available on in his farming practice. So the point, what is the point of doing farming? So he should keep his money in saving account and just earn the interest. Okay, give his land on lease, 25,000 rupees per acre because of lease, and rest of the money which would have been used for buying inputs could have been saved, and they could have earned 7% interest. But cultivating crops might have given him 6% interest. So there is a financial risk. Let's say the lending percentage has the percentage rate of interest has reduced on lending. He might have taken a loan in March at 7% rate of interest, but in April or in May the rate of interest was reduced to 5%. So there is certain uncertainty. If there is uncertainty on part of the government or the banks regarding the rates of interest on savings and loans, it affects the farmers directly. Okay, now institutional risk, changes in policy of the government. Exim policy, as I told you, import duty, export duty policies, these affect the prices of commodities inside the country. Okay, they become cheap or they become expensive. Trade pacts, you might have heard a trade pact that was not joined by India, not joined, because what would have happened, that there would have been free trade, duty free trade between countries such as India, China, uh, Southeast Asian countries, Australia. So what would have happened is Australia country produces gram at a very cheap cost because the climate is congenial there. The cost of production of gram is far less than India. If they grow their gram in Australia and send it to India, including all the cost of transportation, transportation and inside the country through the sea, or every kind of, let's say, margins of intermediaries, their gram would have been far cheaper than the Indian gram. So where would the Indian farmers go? That's why India did not join this trade pact. Similarly, the price of milk of New Zealand is far less than that of Indian milk and milk products. So those milk products would have endangered the Indian dairy farmers. That's why India did not join the trade pact. Okay, so there is an institutional risk. If India would have joined that trade pact, the impact would have been directly on Indian farmers of gram of dairy products. Abolition of subsidies. As you heard, diesel was deregulated. The subsidy on diesel was deregulated 2 to 3 years back. What happened was the prices kept on increasing or decreasing as per the market. As you know, diesel is the cost of diesel in crop production is one of the highest. You know, if the share of cost of diesel in the total cost of production is very high, and if the prices of diesel increase a lot, so their cost of production of crops increase, and it directly affects millions of farmers in the country. Okay, so such kind of activities do affect farmers. Input prices, as you might have heard, the prices of DAP have been increased by rupees 700 per bag. Prices of urea have been increased by 600 rupees per bag. The percentage increase is too much. So these kind of policies create a lot of risk, and there is hell lot of uncertainty because of these institutional problems, that are problems that are created or solved by the governments. Risk management strategy, how do we manage all these kind of risks? First one is diversification. Diversification means multiple enterprises should be followed, mixed farming, mixed cropping, different types of crops. We should be going for crop production, rearing different types of livestock at once. So that what happens is it reduces your income variability. Let's say you are suffering losses in crop production, your crop has failed, but livestock products did give you some money, so your family kept running. Okay, one lean year can ruin a farmer opting for a specialized farming. Example, sugarcane, and a disease came and everything vanished. Zero income. So this is the point of diversification. Flexibility. What happens here is we should be growing short duration crops like vegetables, pulses, cereals if possible. Okay. Dual purpose animals should be kept, such as sheep, so that whenever market conditions are unfavorable, there are price variations. The, let's say, the meat prices of sheep are not high, so you can sell it for its, you can use its wool. Okay, farmer can change the next crop if the prices are unfavorable for the coming crop. Let's say he was supposed to grow cereals in the coming rabi season, but the prices are forecasted that they will be dipping down because of government policies or some, or due to large production, so we can shift to pulses. Okay, and we can sell the animal for meat if the prices of wool were down, or vice versa. Agronomic practices such as zero tillage, which reduces the requirement of money, which reduces the requirement for irrigation and many other things, fertilizers, crop rotation, mulching, deep tillage, IPM, INM, these kind of practices do reduce the risk of crop losses, reduces the risk of crop losses, reduces cost of production. Understood? All these practices reduce variability in production levels. Market risk management, selling products at different points of time by storing them, by processing them in different forms, by freezing them, and by hedging. We will not discuss this technique because it is a little typical for you people. We will be discussing in some other time. It's not that typical. But if the prices generally just after harvest are low. So if we wait for some times, the prices generally increase. If we can wait, we can store our produce. There are definitely storage losses, but even after accounting for those storage losses, generally the prices increase and your revenue increases. But because our farmers are marginal, they need money immediately for different purposes. They sell immediately after harvesting, which is called as distress sale. A farmer, if he has the capacity to process his produce, if he is growing tomato and the prices of tomato is very less, he can get ketchup made out of his tomato, okay, and sell it later on by packaging. But these things are can be done only by big farmers. You can freeze your pea, green peas, if the prices are very down, very low, and can sell them later on. Government price policies, MSP, is for saving the farmers from the slump in prices, because generally the equilibrium prices of crops are very less. So MSP facility was given so that farmers get minimum this money. Okay, this was the at least amount, that at least the farmer should get this much amount of money for his crop. But as you know, in large parts of India, or you can say 94% of grain crops, that is here in grain crops, wheat, paddy, gram, these crops are sold in open markets. Open markets where the prices are decided by demand and supply, and the prices are far lower than the MSP, far lower. So you can see, if the prices are, if the prices in the open markets in the country are far lesser than the MSP, so should we be following the method of selling our things in the open market? What can be done, or what should be done? Or should the MSP be made a floor price? That means at least whoever wants to purchase these crops, they should be paying at least MSP, because MSP is generally cost of production plus a little bit amount of money, little bit money. This is what it means. Okay, let's say MSP for wheat is 1975 and the cost of production might be 1600 per quintal. Okay, so how much did the farmer save per quintal? He saved only 375 rupees. Actual cost might be a lot more or a lot less, but generally there is not much of gap. If he is saying this much rupee only for per quintal, his income is not a lot. Okay, because the size of farmers in the country is the maximum 81% of farmers have land less than 2 hectares. Okay, No, marginal farmers, the land less than 1 hectare, that is 2.5 acres. So you can imagine the level of income of the country. So these policies decide a lot about the future of the farming country. Okay, because India is predominantly a farming country. Government policies such as procurement price, MSP plus or minus something is always a procurement price. Generally, these are the same. Procurement prices are announced just before the harvesting, just before harvesting. MSP is announced before sowing. These are announced before harvesting. Stable exim policies. Wait a second, please. Stable exim policies are also very important. Government should not be changing their decisions regarding export import duties, joining trade pacts, deregulating diesel and increasing the prices of inputs. Frequently. They should be stable over the years. Financial risk management. At the government level, government should ensure stable and lending or saving policies. The interest rate on lending rate and saving rate should not change, should not fluctuate very much. At farmer level, we should be working towards building the solvency of the farmer. Solvency means ability of the business to meet long term money requirements, long term ability of the farmer to pay his debts. And liquidity means he should be having cash income. He should be following those enterprises where he has cash in his pocket all the time whenever he needs for emergencies. Insurance, this is the latest product of among the risk management strategies. It is a technique of transferring risk where we pay some money, farmer pays some money and asks some other person to insure his crop. Okay, what is in it for for the insurer? Because the number of people who are paying a little bit of amount of money are many, and the payouts, the number of farmer claiming that they had losses, and even after paying for their losses, he has a lot of left, a lot of money left. This is how he earns. Farmer pays someone else to assume the risk of loss of production on his farm. To bear the risk, assume means bear the risk of loss of production on his farm. If farmer loses his production, this guy needs to pay the farmer back because he has paid his insurance premium. Insurance company spreads the risk over a large number of farms in order to absorb the risk of loss of farmers. Because these farmers who are getting insured, they come from throughout India. So some farmers in India might not experience any losses. Some experience some losses. So the insurance amount collected was generally is more than the insurance amount paid out. There are some basic terms associated with insurance, or you can say crop insurance. Premium, it is the amount or the installment paid by the, it is the sum of money paid by the farmer to insure his crop. Okay, it is paid generally per acre, varies from crop to crop. Sum insured, in return of this premium paid, insurer will assure that he will pay the farmer an amount in case of full crop loss. Let's say the farmer paid 2500 rupees per acre for wheat. Okay, and he had a full crop loss, his complete crop was gone. He was given 35,000 rupees by the insurance per acre. So this is his sum insured. In case of full crop loss, how much money the farmer is going to get, that is called a sum insured. Indemnity, let's say there is a partial loss. Okay, depending on the amount of loss, the amount of money the farmer is going to get is called as indemnity, that is compensation for loss. Schemes, there are generally two schemes working in the country, predominantly two schemes, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana and weather based crop insurance scheme. Structure of both these things are same. So I'll be discussing their features later on. Benefits of crop insurance scheme, it does stabilize the income of farmer. Even if there is a full crop loss, he will be getting this much amount of money, so his income does not vary very much. Okay. Confidence to adopt new technology that involves large expenditure. Generally, farmers are new hesitant in buying new machinery, new tools, because they involve some expenditure, and farmer will only buy that machinery when he is assured of the returns. What the crop insurance does is he will get these returns even if his crop fails. Okay, that's why it improves the adoption of new technologies. It reduces the government dependency of loan waivers and relief packages it is supposed to give in case the farmers are not insured. If the farmers are insured, the company pays. If the farmers are not insured, so it is a big hue and cry, and the government is definitely supposed to give relief packages. Government needs to interfere in that situation. History of crop insurance scheme. What kind of crop insurance scheme has come to India till now? First, individual approach scheme, pilot crop insurance scheme, comprehensive crop insurance scheme, modified national agri NAIS in Rabi 2010. Modified NAIS came in 2007-8. Weather based crop insurance scheme, which is running till now. 2009-10 coconut palm insurance scheme. All these schemes have come up to this Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. They have been incorporated now. Okay, but this is separate. Which losses are covered under Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana? Standing crop losses in notified area basis. Crops which are insured crops 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These crops are insured for the Kharif season of Haryana, and 1, 2, 3, 4, these are for Rabi crops. Okay, different crops are insured for different regions. Okay, only the losses of those crops will be covered. Insurance is provided only for those crops. Natural fire, lightning, storm, hailstorm, oligirna, cyclone, flood, inundation means पानी खड़ा हो जाना, landslide, drought, dry spells, pests and diseases. Prevented sowing. In case of prevented sowing, maximum of 25% of sum insured is given of a crop. Post harvest losses. Even after harvesting, up to 14 days when the crop is left into the farm in cut and spread manner for drying purposes, if there is any kind of a loss due to cyclonic rains, unseasonal rains, okay, then the farmer has the farmer is entitled to the entitled to compensation. Okay, localized calamities. Let's say these calamities come to only a specific area, such as hailstorms, landslide, inundations. That again I said, when the water stands, due to it might be due to the canals breaching their boundaries. These do affect isolated farms in notified areas. These are isolated problems or calamities. Loss or damage resulting from occurrence of the identified localized risk. These are already identified. Okay. So these are the cases where the farmer is entitled to get benefit of the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. What crops are covered in Haryana in Kharif season? These four crops: cotton, maize, paddy and pearl millet. And how much amount does a farmer need to pay for getting his crop insured per acre? That this amount is 2% of sum insured in case of Kharif season crops. In Rabi season, 5 crops are insured. The amount he needs to pay is 1.5% of sum insured. For horticultural crops, which are perennial crops, multi-year crops, 5% of sum insured needs to be paid by the farmer for insuring his crop. So what are the related terms? Okay, what is threshold yield? What is the average yield according to which a loss is calculated? Average yield or threshold yield is sum of the yields of last 7 years. Last 7 years, wherein we will reduce the value of those 2 years where there was any kind of calamity, where the average yield was less throughout the state, and again we will, let's say the average yield was taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 figures and divided by 5. So this came out to be the threshold yield or average yield. Okay, according to which your losses will be calculated. Sum insured will be MSP 1975 into, let's say, threshold yield for Haryana is 20 quintals. So sum insured will be calculated in this manner: 1975 into 20. You can calculate yourself. It comes around to be 39,000 rupees per acre. Okay. This is the maximum amount of money you will be getting in case of 100% crop loss. Shortfall in yield. What is the shortfall in yield? Threshold yield, that is the average of the last 5 years minus the actual. This will be the shortfall in yield. Let's say there was a problem, there was a hailstorm in your area, in your village, and the shortfall in yield came out to be it came out to be, let's say, 3 quintals. Okay, the threshold yield was 20 quintals and the actual yield was 17 quintals. So the shortfall was 3 quintals. How much money is supposed to be paid to the whole village now? Everybody on an average lost 3 quintals of wheat in this season. Shortfall is 3 divided by 20 into sum insured is 39,000. So this much of money needs to be paid per acre. Money to be paid in case of loss to a farm need to be paid per acre to the farmers in the village. Alright, now let's take a look at the latest data. See, this is the latest data. This is today's article. This is the premium to be paid. This is the premium to be paid by the farmers, and this is the sum insured. Kharif season there are 4 crops. In Rabi season there are 5 crops. Premium to be paid for all these crops is mentioned here, and the sum insured value, that is compensation in case of 100% loss. In case of wheat it is just 27,300 rupees. Okay, this premium is actually very less. The total premium is paid by, some of it is paid by the farmer, some of it is paid by the government of India, and some of it is paid by the government of our state. Okay, this scheme is, it is written here, योजना सभी किसानों के लिए स्वैच्छिक है. This scheme is entirely voluntary. If somebody wants, some loany farmer who has taken a loan and he does not want to insure his crop, he needs to withdraw his name by giving in writing before 24th July, okay, to the banks. If they do not do so, they will be the premium amount will be deducted from their savings account or from their loan account, and they will be considered a part of the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. If somebody who is a non-loany farmer, they can also apply till 31st July and get benefit of this insurance scheme. So let's move back to the slides. So this is all about our unit, and I'll be meeting you in the next one. These are the links given which have been used to collect data from different sources for making this slide. I'll be giving these links in the description of the video being uploaded on YouTube. So we'll be meeting you in the next unit, that is unit 8. So thank you very much for your time.